Over here a little bit, we're going to cover Keyshot Viewer. These are the topics that we'll go over. We'll go over the Keyshot Configurator, the Configurator Wizard, Keyshot Viewer interface, and at the very end, we'll do a little bit of Q&A. Again, my name is Bill. I'm a specialist here, and I specialize in design and rendering. Boundary Systems is a leader in e.t.c solutions. Some partners of ours include e.t.c. We are one of the 16 fastest growing private companies in Cleveland, and we are part of the PDS Vision Group. We cover PLM, CAD design and consulting, simulation, and product development. Some industry awards that we have are the Inc. 5000, Weatherhead 100, and some major accreditations of our are the PTC Platinum Partnership, the Windchill Certified Implementer, the PTC Preferred Service Provider, the PTC Authorized and Certified Training Partners for Creo, Windchill, MathCAD, and Arbortext. Some software solutions that we provide are listed below: Tacton, Moldex 3D, Xformation, e.t.c, ITI, Keyshot, of course, Signaxum, to name a few. Again, to go over these topics, we'll start off with the Keyshot Configurator, look at the model sets, studios, materials. We'll go into the wizard and kind of show you how that's set up with, selecting the parent models, the components, groups, the material, studios, and layout. And then we'll actually take a look at the Keyshot Viewer interface. So we'll take a look at the model sets and how you can select those, as well as the material, studios, and the toolbar. All right, so getting right into the Keyshot Configurator. Keyshot Configurator is a tool for presenting model and material variations on a local computer in real time for design reviews and interactive consumer experiences. So to the very right here, we're showing the basic Keyshot interface, right, where we have the model here, we have studios here to the bottom right. So basically, if we have the model, the camera set up, materials, and the studios all set up, we can actually then go into Window and then go into the Keyshot Configurator, and basically this is where we actually set up the experience for the Keyshot Viewer. All right, so the Keyshot Configurator, it utilizes model sets, studios, and materials. You can see here at the bottom left, if you've used Keyshot before, you know that you can actually create these model sets. So right here we have the razor selected, the countertop selected, and we have the option as well to switch from the razor to the toothbrush attachment. And then to the very right, or the center here, we have the material. So these are all the different shaders that we can use to add to the model. And then the image to the right is the studio environment, where we can actually add a camera, an environment, an image style, and a model set as well if we need to. All right, and then these are just little snapshots of the configuration wizard, kind of starting over here at the top left. In image one, there's the overview, basically asking, what do you want to show? In this case, we selected the model and material. We can add parent models. In this case, the parent models are the toothbrush and razor. And then we start actually selecting the components too. So the components are part of the accessory that are dependent on the parent models, right? So again, we have the toothbrush here and the razor as the parent models, and we have the children, you could say, which are the square, the hex, and the round. They're part of the actual shaft of that component. Up here to the top in the middle, we have the component groups. So the component groups are actually what create the dependency between the components and the parent model. So you can select those. And there's also variations in materials as well that you can create. And then of course you have your studios. We see that we have the hero studio, the head top, the head bottom, and also the countertop. So you can also have these set up in the wizard. Then finally, we have the layout. So in here is where you can actually start to mess around with the sizing and backgrounds and and colors of the viewer. So there's a horizontal flow, the vertical flow, there's the user interface size, the thumbnails for the models and materials in studios. There's a toolbar that has the save configuration button, auto hide button. So if you want to turn these buttons on or off, you can do that by selecting the little checkbox there. And then to the right, there's panels, so you can actually name your panels. And then there's also styling, so you can add a color to your backgrounds for the panels. Same thing for your tiles, or the titles, sorry. And then there's the thumbnail colors as well. Then you can select the different text colors, background colors, and the borders. Right, so before we go into Keyshot, I just want to show that we're actually using a model that was created in SolidWorks. So here's the SolidWorks interface here. Okay. Going right to Keyshot. So here we are. So you guys all know that when you work in Keyshot, this is where you can add lighting, materials to your model. So all the materials for this configurator in this model are here. So we have the metal blue accent for the handle here, as well as the back of the brush or the razor. We have the materials for the head and the grip strip, chrome, and also we can see if we drag this down that we have the model set. So right now we have round selected for the handle. We can switch that to hex and hide round, right? So we know that in here in Keyshot we can switch between these model sets. And same thing for studios, right? We can switch between the Hero Studio, head top, head bottom, and countertop, right? So I just wanted to show that these are all predefined and set up. So once you have all this set up for your model, basically from here, let me turn these back on in the model sets. Once you're here to actually set up your configuration for the viewer, you're going to go over here to Window, Configuration Wizard. Okay, and once you select that, this is where you get the window that pops up, and basically you would start at the very top. So there's Overview, and we're going to say that we want to do the model and materials, and then the next tab is Parent Models. So we'll select the parent models, which are the toothbrush head and the razor head. And then there's a different components. We have select existing sets selected. So we have the square, set, hex, and round. Here's a different component group. So we're showing the handle here for the razor. So that's selected for round right now initially. And then for the toothbrush handle, we have round selected as well. And then material sets, studios, these are the different studios that we have set up. So again, we're just gonna, basically tell the configuration wizard what we're gonna use and what we're gonna see when we view the experience in the viewer. In layout, notice that we have touch friendly selected. So if you have a touch device, if it's a iPad or whatever it is you're using, if you have a laptop that's got a touch screen, if you have this selected, you can use that functionality. You see we have the interface and thumbnail size, so we can adjust these settings. And then, like I mentioned in the slides, there's a toolbar that has the different buttons here that we can actually turn on and off. So if I don't want to display the exit button in viewer, I can get rid of that from the toolbar. Here's the different panels. I can name my panels. So the parent title is the attachment, and the studio title is called View. And then down here is styling. So in here I can actually change, the text color of titles, text color of the hover mode and selected mode, and also the thumbnails for hover selected in front as well. And that's about it. All right, so once that's set up, let's go back to our slides here. So once you're there, you're ready to move into the Keyshot Viewer. So the Keyshot Viewer basically gives you high quality, real-time viewability of your model, right? So if you create this model, render it in Keyshot, and you want to share that model to your peers, with your boss, your supervisor, or maybe you want to use this for, point of sale. Maybe, you want to share this with a customer and say, hey, look, this is the product. And you could basically show them the product and have them go through the configurations to basically take a look at the model and say, hey, I think that this shaft would look good, or this the handle would look good with gray. Maybe the trim on top would be better in green, really. And it kind of allows them to actually work through the render and select different components and colors and materials to give them a really good experience, so that they can take a look at it in an interactive way, so that you can sell your product. Okay. All right, so the interface, let me move on here. So you can see that the interface is laid out pretty nice and simple for you. It's very clean, streamlined. Down here to the left, we have model sets, material sets in the middle, and then we have studios here to the right. So you can basically click between the model sets, the material sets, and studios to get the configuration that you want. And what's cool is that once you do that, if you get the image where you want it and you want to save that image, you can actually do that. So you can actually go to save configuration here to the right to save that image. You have the ability to also use GPU mode. So that if you have an NVIDIA card or something that you use for rendering, you can use that, and that basically allows you to speed up your render. So it really increases the speed at which everything is going to calculate and render here. So that's up here at the very right. You can toggle the model sets on and off, as well as the materials and studio. So if you just don't need to see that information here in this menu, you can actually click that and toggle it off. The automatically hide button, basically what that does is if you have it selected, if you move to a different screen or something, it'll actually hide these toolbars here. But if you want, you can turn that off. Tumble camera actually allows you to rotate your camera. Pan allows you to do just what it says and pan your camera. Same thing with dolly here. That allows you to actually zoom in and out of your model. If you actually create a configuration but want to go back to the start, you can actually click this reset button. And same thing with the camera. If you go to a certain configuration but you want to change the angle of your camera, and you change the angle of your camera but want to go back, same thing as the reset configuration. Just click the reset camera and it'll bring it back to the initial state. And then also, if you want to exit presentation mode, you basically click this bottom here at the bottom right, and it'll actually minimize the screen a little bit and get rid of all the stuff that you're seeing as far as the menus and toolbars. Okay, so let's move on to Keyshot Viewer. So basically, from the start, what you would do is you would go to Keyshot Viewer. And once you click on the icon to start the application, you'll see that you have the option to open your file, take a tour. There's also this benchmark. And what that benchmark does is it basically takes your GPU and your CPU and it compares it to a reference that it has to calculate, what your render speed would be using your GPU and CPU. If there's a file that you've opened recently, you'll see that here as well. So in this case, I'm using the Keyshot Brush Razor 2. So I've got that selected. So for now, we'll just close that out because we have it open. So again, this is Keyshot Viewer. We're seeing that we have a pretty high quality render here. To the very left at the bottom are the model sets. And the different sets that we have are the attachment and handle. So right now we have razor selected for the attachment. I can just left click and slide this, and if I want to, I can select the brush. All right, and you'll see I can actually turn on GPU mode to harness the graphics processor power, and it models pretty quickly. I'm actually going to switch back now to the razor head. And then same thing with the handle. I can go to the handle model set, right, and I can switch between round to hex, and it changes the handle there in the viewing area. And then there's also square, right? I think I'll keep it at square for now. Right, and also, you know, we have the ability to change these different material shaders, right? So what's selected first right here is the actual head, right? So I have the ability now to change that color. So we see we have blue selected. I can change that now to purple. And you can see how quickly that changes in the viewing area here. And I'll also go to the head, and you can see that it's changing it from that transparent black here to transparent gray. I think I'll switch back to black. All right. There's also this flex component as well. There's white, and we'll switch back to black. All right. So now that we've seen the model sets, materials, we'll now move to studios. All right. So here's Hero. And you can see that again with the studios, you know, entails, you know, not just the model itself, but cameras and environments, right? So now we can switch between the different environments. There's Hero, there's head top, head bottom, and then finally countertop. All right. And I think I'm going to go back to the head here and change it back from purple to blue. So we match. Okay, we have blue here again and blue trim here and blue trim here, so that looks good. Okay, so now what we're going to take a look at is toggling off some of what we're seeing here in the ribbon at the bottom. So let's toggle off the model sets. And you can see that once we do that, it gets rid of the model sets from the viewing area, and now we just see materials and studios. So now we'll go to the materials panel and hide that, and then same thing with studios, right? So if you want to briefly hide some of those, you can do that and then turn them back on. Okay, so now we're going to go back down to manipulating the camera or the view. So right now we have tumble selected, so that allows me to basically click and rotate the model. Then there's pan. If we select pan, we can just left click, hold, and drag. And then there's dolly here that allows us to zoom in and out. Okay, and now if we do this, if I, you know, change that camera angle, maybe if I add a different attachment set and I change this to, you know, brush, for example, you know, if I want to go back to the original configuration that we started off with after I've made these changes, I can do that. So down here to the right, we're going to go to reset configuration, right? And once I do that, you'll see it's going to switch back to the original, right? And the same thing goes for camera. So if I take this, tumble that view, maybe pan it as well, and zoom out. If I want to go back to the original default camera view, I can just come down here to the camera, select that. It's going to zoom in and go right back to where it started. Okay. Once we get this to where we want it, so if I've decided that I want to show an image with the brush or the razor, and I want to show it in a certain, you know, camera angle as well with the material selected. Right. Once I do all that, set up my studios. Once I get the image configuration where I want it, I can then save that image. So that's the second one from the bottom. So I'll go to save. Then we'll just do a save as a JPEG. We have a PNG option as well. So once you save it, it saves it as an image, and then you can go ahead and open up that image. And here's an example of a render using the brush configuration. So that brush configuration looks pretty good. We'll close that out. So yeah, so that's basically it. You know, just wanted to briefly show you how to use that configuration wizard, at least walk through it and show you that, you know, you can basically specify, you know, what you're going to use as far as your model sets, materials and studios. And if you want to adjust, you know, the sizing and different buttons and stuff in the interface, you can go ahead and do that. Then once you do that, you can basically take this KSP file. So that's another thing that I want to mention is that what you're sharing. So if somebody downloads Keyshot Viewer, in order to view the model, you have to save it as a KSP file, right? So that's what this file is. You can see at the very top, if you go to File, Save Package, all right, that allows us to save it as a KSP. All right, so once we do that, we're then able to share that model. And if somebody gets the Keyshot Viewer, they can open up that KSP and take a look at the different setups and different views in there, okay? All right, so I think that this now is a good time to do a little Q&A if somebody has a question they want to ask. Again, my name is Bill. You see my email here. It's bdrosos. And then there's also a sales email to contact Jennifer at jbristow@boundarysystems.com. And there's also our site. And we also have a YouTube channel as well. So if there's anything that you want to see, you know, that's not just like related to Keyshot, but anything CAD related that deals with our software solutions, you can go there as well. Any questions? Yeah, so if there's anything that you want to ask, you can actually go in the chat and type that in. Okay, so it looks like nobody has a question here. Thank you for joining the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thanks again.